Hello everyone, how you doing? You have had the beautiful Rosie all morning, but you got me now. That's amazing, right? For joining us, you're all very well, the sun is shining wherever you are. Today we have the wonderful Jody Furlong with us, who is going to be talking all about scouting models and how that works. Just a bit about the platform here. If you are a subscriber, you can ask questions as we go. If you are interested, maybe we will cover everything. If you go to live comments, you can type your questions in there. Do that from the start. It's always useful for us to have those questions there. Don't leave them all to the end, just in case we don't get to see them, because they will come in right at the end. So do that from the beginning. I'm going to bring Jody in here. Hey, how you doing? You all right?
Hello. Yes, thanks for having me back.
Oh, thanks for coming back. And how things been?
Yeah, things are fine. Obviously, the industry's slowly getting back, and everyone always says that advertising is the first thing to come back after any kind of financial problems. So, fingers crossed. But yeah, I mean, as I was just saying to you, I do casting. I was on here last time to talk about casting, but I also do scouting. I've also got an agency. I've also got a studio. So we cover lots of bases. So today we're going to talk about a different thing that I do, I believe.
So tell us all about the eye casting, just for people that may not have caught the last session. So just give us a bit of background on that, and then we'll come on to the scouting part as well.
So the eye casting is a casting company. Primarily, I started it as being a casting director. But we did loads of street casting, found loads of cool people. So my brother came on board. I have a twin brother. So he came on board and he runs the Eye Models, which is our agency, which was full of initially the street cast talent that I found while casting. And then since then, obviously, it's gone on and found its own talent. My brother and Deanne run that. I don't really have anything to do with it. I concentrate on the casting. But we also have we've got a sister studio, Red Brick Studios, which is downstairs from us, which we use for all of our castings. And Katie, who runs that, is an acting coach, a writer, lots of interesting things there. And then also, I'm a scout, so I scout models. We're what's called a mother agent, so we stay as mother agent to these models, and we place them with big agencies in London, but also in New York, Paris, in Milan, in Germany, in Holland, in Australia, in South Africa. So we place them all around the world, and we stay involved as a mother agent. So yeah, we kind of tick lots of boxes in the casting world.
Amazing. Now, I know, again, we spoke about this last time, but street casting, and that was kind of, if you can give us just a little bit of background on what street casting is, and that's kind of really, that was your thing, wasn't it? That you just had this knack for just seeing people and just getting it right.
So when street casting first came around, which is, I mean, probably in the 90s when people started first, like just kind of using real people. And then obviously the Dove adverts was the very first high profile thing that used only real. I don't like the word real because models and actors and dancers are real people. But if in casting terms, real means non-professional. So the Dove adverts were the first that did use a lot of real people in their adverts. I worked for a casting director at the time called Heather March, who from the second Dove advert onwards, we did all the casting for Dove. Heather still does Dove adverts now. So that was kind of my introduction into the casting world, was doing street casting, going out on the street, stopping people, saying, do you want to be in an advert? Which was, before people knew of it as a phenomenon, it was quite difficult, and you had to have personality to do it. You also had to have the skills and interpersonal skills to actually talk to people. A lot of people thought you were stopping them to ask for money, and other people are more familiar with street casting now, so it's not as difficult. But obviously, also street casting has changed a lot because it's not so much on the streets anymore. A lot of it is obviously done online, so the way that people street cast has changed fundamentally as well.
Fantastic. And then what? What was it about the model side of things that got you really interested? What was it? Was it from finding those? I mean, that first Dove advert was amazing. I love there were those adverts through time, and that's what I love about adverts. There are adverts through time that become these iconic adverts. So Shaken Vac advert. Do you remember that one? Well, apparently.
I'm old enough to remember the Bisto family.
Oh my gosh!
What was What was the coffee one that went on for years, like when they had with Sharon
Nescafe Gold? That whole relationship,
Yeah.
with the apartments, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, the Silver Fox!" And it was incredible.
We actually don't get that many adverts with scripts anymore. It's very much about like little vignettes of someone walking past, and so it's a shame that we don't get those kind of storylines. But people watch adverts in a different way nowadays.
They do.
They fast forward.
I remember seeing an advert, an interview about the lady who did the Shake and Vac advert, and I'll get some of this wrong, but she was like, I'd done like one job, and then I did that. That ran for 15 years. It paid for my entire life, because back then adverts, like, they paid.
Absolutely.
And she was like, I don't think she really did much acting after that. Went and had a family, but that advert ran for, so you have those, Hofmeister, Follow the Bear. I remember all this. All of
I belonged to an agency in the 90s, and when we went to, I always say we because I speak about my brother at the time, we went to join them. They were like, one of their selling cars for us to join was, we represent the lady who's on the PG Tips boxes. And she did one shoot 15 years before. They're still using her image every year. She's made thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds. Obviously nowadays they'd do a buyout, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
But that's what used to happen. It used to get renewed every year. It was done on the amount of times it was used, not a buyout. So things are different now, unfortunately.
So where did it go from finding? Was it something like working on the Dove commercial that you were like, this is incredible? I and that whole, like, obviously working doing street casting. I was going to say work in the streets. Different. Working on street casting.
Did you have much longer? Making any money?
You'll do it. No, not a problem. Was it like, that kind of inspired you to go, well, look, we do this. I think I could probably do it for models. What was how did that work out?
I suppose indirectly, yes. So I was doing casting. I was street casting. I was finding cool people. And obviously, as a casting director, I do talk to model agencies all of the time. And if I found someone I thought could be a fashion model, I would speak to agencies, say, look, I found this really cool person. And they'd be like, cool, here's a finder's fee. And so I did that a few times. And then what happened, this is what really happened. In 2007, 2008, I was asked to do a TV show called Find Me the Face, which was myself and Becky, and we travel the country searching for models. And each week it would be for a different, they were going to get signed to a different agency. And in 1 week it would be an underwear model, 1 week it would be a beauty model, 1 week it would be a guy. So there's all different kind of types of model, which is something I'll talk about later when we talk about being scouted. And from that, a lot of the agencies got in touch with me and said, oh, you found really cool models. If you ever find anybody, we'd love you to place them with us. And Becky, who was my colleague on the show, she said to me, you need to do mother agency agreement. You need to stay their agent, and then you can place them. So it really came from that. And the first guy I ever placed as a mother agent, who I scouted, was Eddie Gray, who was one of the models from that show, and it carried on from there. So I've been doing it for like 12, 13 years now. Amazing.
Fantastic. So as somebody, Sienna says here, all those residuals paying off for 15 years. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. Incredible. Don't expect it now.
Now 15 year buyout up front, just in case.
Say that again.
Different. Now they want to buy a 15-year buyout up front, so they don't have to keep paying you.
Exactly.
Different world now.
Different world. So when you're looking at finding models and scouting models, do you feel, is it different to finding actors? Is it a different kind of thing? I know it might be a look thing, but is it kind of like, and how, when you walk up to somebody and you say, hi, would you like to be a model? Do they not think you're sort of hitting on
them? The thing is, I'm constantly looking. I think all casting directors do. We're constantly keeping our eye out for people who've got an interesting look. And usually, I mean, it's changed, say, in the last 3-4 years, but until the last 3 or 4 years, models were very specific. They were very tall, they were very skinny, they had certain kind of features. So it was quite easy to spot people. You look for the tall. I mean, I remember when I was doing that show, I scouted someone from behind. because I just knew because she was tall, skinny. And turned around, she was amazing. But that's changed. It's different nowadays. But yeah, I mean, obviously for acting, there is a skill level that you have to have, and a lot of people can. There's a natural, like, I don't think you can teach acting to someone who doesn't understand, but you can definitely enhance someone's skills through classes. But for modeling, there is definitely a skill to it. It is definitely something that people do need to work on, but it is something that most people can learn to do sufficiently in order to have some success. Well, I don't think you just pluck someone off the street and make them an actor overnight. I mean, obviously some directors are very good at that, very good at using real people, but I think it's quite specific, the roles you want to put them in, playing something close to who they are. I don't think you're going to get someone from the street and get them to do a comedy role. I think that's too difficult, or Shakespeare. Whereas with modeling, yes, it is just about knowing how to stand and have your photo taken. There's a lot more to it than that, but you can get by with that basic skill. So I think if you're going to be looking for actors, then there's a lot. It's a lot more intensive. You're going to have to do workshops. You're going to have to work with them with scripts, etc. Whereas for modeling, if you can stand still, you can do something. If we do obviously work with models to enhance their skills, but you can get signed. You can definitely get signed with no experience whatsoever.
Obviously, I think probably the most famous model on the planet, scouted at, what was she, 14, Kate Moss, walking down the street in Croydon. You know, is that
an airport? She was at an airport.
Airport, that's it.
Yeah.
Is that
literally Jordan Dunn was scouted at Primark in Hammersmith? So that's what happened. Naomi Campbell was scouted in Covent Garden in a break from school. So that is literally what happens with models.
Is it still that young? Are they still scouted that young to go into the industry?
So you could be scouted at 14. But you're not really going to be doing anything. The days are gone when you'd have a 14-year-old jetting around the world doing fashion shows. In the UK, you can't work without a license until you're 16. So obviously that makes it problematic, because a lot of, especially more fashion clients, are not going to want to do that. Also, so I'm just turning my sound down so we don't get things. So until you're 16, you have to have a license from the local education authority. So that makes it more difficult to work. And also the British Fashion Council have lots of different rules and regulations about working. Until you're 18, you have to have a chaperone. So it is a little bit different than it used to be. I think we're much more cautious of getting young people to work. And it's not necessary. There's no need for 16-year-old women's clothes. It just doesn't. So I think, especially in the UK, I think the UK is very good. It's a good place to start modeling. It's the restrictions on what kind of sizes and stuff is a little bit more relaxed in the UK than it is, especially in like France or Milan, where the emphasis is on shows. In the UK, it's very much about street fashion. It's about e-commerce. In the last few years, height is not so important. Obviously, agencies like Nevs have been really good with getting really cool, interesting talent that are different sizes. Milk is now one of the biggest agencies in London, and they represent all sizes. So it started out as curve, but now they represent all sizes. So I think London's a great place to start modelling, because we're a little bit more relaxed about who can and can't model.
When you see someone, you know, have you seen anyone and just gone, I mean, you worked on the show, but you just see someone and go, they have the star quality. I was actually, when Kate Moss was going out with Russell Brand, he was doing a comedy night at the Hen and Chickens Theatre in Islington upstairs. Like they used to run these, like, you know, comedians would go there and sort of test their work before they got on the big circuit. And she was there, and we didn't know who she was right away. And she was sitting at the end of the bar, pair of jeans, white t-shirt, and it was like this glow of the heavens was around her. She had this thing. It was incredible. And it's not about beauty or anything. She was dressed like anyone else, but there was something about her, and we were all looking at her going, who is that? She's unreal. And then we realized when Russell Brand came down, we're like, oh my God, it's Kate Moss. Is that a thing? Is that a real thing?
100% it's a thing. Sometimes you just see people and you're like, you're not real. You can't be working in a shop. For me, it's just not acceptable. Like you're just too special. You need to be doing something, and it might be something you don't want to do, and there's all kinds of reasons why people don't get into modeling. But yes, 100%. Sometimes you can see people that have something about them that is you can't take your eyes off. But that's the interesting thing about modeling, is that some people don't look great in the flesh. They just look average, and then you take a photo and something special happens. And vice versa. Some people who are the best looking people in real life, when you take a photo, something just doesn't quite work. And that's why some people are much better at photos, some people are better at film, some people are better at real life.
Right.
There's nothing even I've been doing this for so long, you still don't know necessarily when you meet someone if they're going to photograph well. So some of the like the best looking people are not good models, because for some reason the way their light hits their features, it doesn't work so well. And some people who are not that special in real life just take amazing photos. So yeah, it is. There's definitely something about the way that our eyes work and what we find attractive that is, yes, I 100% agree that some people do have this kind of glow. We call it a supermodel glow. Sometimes people are just like, wow, look at you. So
incredible.
That's what you hope.
Yeah, no, and so like also, you know, obviously with models, you look at. I used to do a lot of photography, and when I was an actor, and kind of like it was like, which way do I go? It got to a point like, do I stay as an actor or do I go? I was offered some pretty great jobs as a photographer. One of the areas was I love doing model shots and stuff, and that would be that thing where a girl or a guy would turn up and you'd go, okay, and put makeup on, click at the camera, and you go, oh, what just happened? That's ridiculous. And on my process of wanting to shoot, wanting to get, you know, go down that route as a photographer, I could see someone and go, that's Guess, that's Gucci, that's, and then there's, would you say that's in my own mind, would you say that that's a thing as well, that some models just fit into a brand even without anything like that?
100%. But I do think that's changing a little bit, because for a long, I mean, in the 90s it was a little bit more free. You'd get like Calvin Klein CK1 ads, which was all about people being interested in different, have Vivienne Westwood using interesting people, or Jean Paul Gaultier. And then that all changed in the 2000s, and fashion models were very distinct. They were tall, very, very skinny, probably Eastern European girls. And that was for 10 years. And that was also when the kind of the supermodel fell away, when we didn't really know, apart from Giselle, I don't think we really knew the names of many models. But that's changed a little bit because of street casting, because of social media. Different people can be models now, and big brands are using types of people that they may not have used previously. So yeah, I do agree with you that there is a different types of model. And I want to talk a little bit about, if you're trying to be scouted, thinking about what kind of model you are and what agencies to approach. But it is changing, but there's still going to be tall, skinny girls primarily do catwalk and Vogue magazine. If you're different shapes and sizes, you can do different things. So it is opening up, but I think we still need to be realistic about the type of model that you can be and apply to the appropriate agencies for the best chances of getting signed and being successful after you've been signed.
So I'll come on to a few people who are asking questions in a moment. So talk us through that. Like, so here I am sucking in the cheeks here to bring out the, you know, the gorgeous cheekbones. Like I'm sitting here at home and I'm like, right, I want to be a model. It's something I really love. I love fashion. I love that industry. I love the idea of, you know, but I'm not that. I'm not that guy from the wonderful 1980s Athena poster campaigns with a baby and a 9, 10, 20 pack, or, you know, the tire. You know, that ain't me. What is there? Is there like what? How should I go about thinking? Right, who am I? What's my path? How do I?
as with any job, if you wanted to get a job in a shop, for example, you don't just walk into any shop and say, I want to work here. You do a bit of research. You find out the type of shop that interests you. You find out what they sell. You find out a little bit about the product so that when you go in, you're educated about what it is that you're trying to do. I'd say exactly the same for models. Be realistic. There is a model agency for everybody these days. Modeling is not just being on the front of the Vogue and doing catwalks. That is 1/10 of what modeling is. If you walk down the street, every billboard has a model in it. When you open a magazine, everybody in it is a model. When you go on Instagram, they're models. So there's different things. A mum with a baby is a model. An old lady in a cruise commercial is a model. So there's all different types of modeling, and there's all different agencies that represent all different types of people. So you might dream of being a catwalk model. There's a very, very specific tiny minority of people who can do that. And within that tiny minority, there's an even smaller minority of people who are successful doing that. So that might be the pinnacle. It might not be realistic for you. And also a lot of those fashion girls, you might see them on a few shows, doesn't mean they're working the rest of the year. So just because that looks like the best bet for you doesn't mean it is. A lot of the girls you've never heard of but are working every day doing e-com are making a lot more money.
Yeah.
So be realistic about what's good for you, what type of model you think you could be, and then do some research about what type of agencies would represent different types of model. And there's, like I said, there's all different types of model. So there's all different types of agencies that
the
would represent.
online world has kind of blown the whole industry up, hasn't it? Just like the whole the content now online is just so huge, and you literally see every height, size, right, everything, every single type of person you see now, don't you, online? It's massive.
And also, if you get, like, it might not be the coolest thing to do, but if you can get in with an e-com client, it's consistent. They might have you in 3 days a week. You might be getting 500 a day in your pocket. So there's nothing, like, that's the kind of job. And I say to models all the time, oh, I want to be editorial, I want to do this. Do you really, or do you want to make some money? Because ultimately this should be about making money. I remember doing a casting in New York a few years ago now, and we had people from all different agencies come in, and there was an agency in New York at the time that was very famous for having all the kind of really cool girls that did loads of editorials and were kind of quirky and interesting looking. And this other girl came in from a different agency, and she said, oh yeah, those girls, they might be really famous, and they might be on the magazines, but we call them the poor girls, because they don't make any money. So, so I think, like, it's about being realistic about what it is that you can be, and doing your research and finding an appropriate agency, and being open to the type of model you want to be may not be in the type of model that you can be. So I think that's a good place to start.
Brilliant. We've got Safa here. What advice would you give an actor to get more auditions for commercial ads?
So I don't do that many commercials, to be honest. But I think the thing is, with commercial ads, it's about the relationship with your agent, and your agent with casting directors, and what kind of ads come up that you might be appropriate for. I think the things you can do, really simple things, is make sure that your photos on Spotlight are a real representation of you. And I personally hate those kind of studio photos where everyone looks exactly the same. And it's like, if I'm casting for a young girl with brown hair, I don't know which one to pick because you all look the same. So have a little bit of personality. I would say have your photos in natural light, show some personality in the photo. And you can change photos. Well, you can have more than one photo up there. So have a little bit of difference in those photos so that we can see you in different roles. And also self-tapes as well, or your show reels. Have stuff on there that's appropriate for what you want to be put up for. And your show doesn't have to be full of like professional jobs. It can be something that you just put a camera in front of yourself and do a little bit of do a little reading, do something, work with your mate. Nowadays, you've got everything at your like fingertips. You can do it on a phone. It doesn't have to be a professional thing. There's all kinds of scripts online. There's so much stuff, so many resources right there. So I would say keep up modern photos in your show reel, in your spotlight page, and work on your show reel. Give casting directors something to really grab onto, to differentiate you from everybody else.
Brilliant, absolutely. I think also, so with regards to you're right. So I'm an actor, and you know, I feel a bit embarrassed about becoming a model, and I'm like, well, I'm an actor, and will that go against me being an actor? And now I want to be a model, or you know, how do I? What are some of the things? How do I go from being an actor? I still want to be an actor, but how do I take that step? What is the first step? So maybe it's not about the scouting part, which we'll come on to a little bit more in a moment, but as an actor going into modeling, okay, photos, but what photos? Like what's my first step?
So to be scouted by an agency, number one, like I said, find an appropriate agency for you. Look on their website, because they will have a process on there of where to send photos. You do not need professional photos. Never, ever, ever spend money on professional photos, because that's not what a model agency is looking for. There are lots of companies that stop you in the street and say, oh, here, have some professional photos done. We're going to introduce you to agencies. Just cost, and they take your photos and then they charge you like £1,000 to get them. Never, ever, 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 ever do that. And we get them all the time. People send, oh, this agency's told me to get in touch with you. And Bayo will look at them and he'll say, we like you, but we're not going to use any of those photos, because they're just not the kind of photos that we would ever use. So just literally get your friend to take a snap of you against a blank wall. That is all you need. Blank wall, show head on, full length, and maybe profiles. And that is it. And wear something that is fitted so we can see people's shape. That's all you need to approach an agency. And if anyone's an actor and wants to be a model, models who can act are like gold dust, because often for a TV commercial, you want someone with the looks of a model, but who can do basic acting. And I'm telling you, it's a skill that not many people have. So if you've got the looks that are good enough to be a model, and you've got even the basic acting skills, it's really, really, really helpful.
Brilliant. And so tell us about the different, like you use scouting models. You say you use social media a lot now as well. Is that you just and they're going through Instagram, or what's your process now for scouting? How do you go about that?
So I obviously still scout if I'm out and about, but I don't ever go on a scouting trip. I don't go somewhere specifically to scout. But when you live in London and you're constantly around, you're always seeing people that potentially could model. I mean, 80% of them are already models, but that's fine. But online, I have a separate scout page, which is called Scout London, and a lot of people apply through that page. And also, I spoke to someone this morning who had liked, and this is what a lot of people do, they're looking to be scout, they like a lot of your photos, or they like something just to get your attention. And I spoke to someone this morning who'd done that. So by all means, apply to people through Instagram. It is a good way of doing it these days. But make sure that if you do that, your page is open. A lot of people try and get scouted and they've got a private page. I'm not going to chase you, so make sure that's open. Make sure the photos that are available and high up on your feed are appropriate photos, because people don't want to be scrolling through to find a decent photo of you. So yeah, social media is a very good tool to find people and for people to be found as well. But I think also the people who run the social media side of the models agency's website may not be the same people who are doing the scouting. So it might be more productive to email directly to an agency.
And what about, like, so when you talk about your agency being, did you say it's a mother like agency? So it's that first stage. Is that explain that, and then explain the process. Go for it.
So every model agency, specifically the more fashion agencies that would have people in different countries and stuff like that, every model agency is a mother agency. So if they find a model and they scout that model and they sign them to their agency, they will be the mother agency. and then they will place them in Paris, in Milan, in New York, etc. But they stay as the mother agency. What I do is similar, although I don't have an actual fashion model agency. So I scout people, I'm their mother agency, and then I place them with other agencies. They deal with the other agencies day to day, but I stay involved in placements, in finances, in travel, in all different things. If they need help with test shoots, with all stuff like that. So every agency, if you're a certain type of model, it's not going to happen if you're with a character agency, but every fashion model, their main agency is their mother agency, unless they have a scout who scouted them and his mother agency. And there's a number of people that I do in London who are scouts, who are mother agent as well.
And so talk through like your so when you're sitting and you're looking to scout your, you know, so let's say you're in a restaurant or a cafe and you're looking to scout somebody. Are you looking as a general thing, or do you scout because for like like, are you looking for somebody like, oh, I'll take an actor on my books, they might be great for XYZ, or is it for specific? Do you only scout when you're looking at specific projects? What's your process in that way?
Both, and yes. So like I'm always got my eyes out for people. So and there's different things. You could have a specific project in mind that you're casting at that moment. You could have a specific casting that you've previously done that you know that you might do again. You could have I might be scouting someone who's a fashion model, I'm thinking they can do a catwalk show, so I'm going to place them with, I don't know, Models One or Elite. I could also be thinking about my agency, or Bayo runs, which is more a street cast kind of cool kids agency. So, or they might just be a really cool person that I'm like, I want to do, I don't know what you can do, but you're really cool. I want to give you my card because I think in the future there's going to be something comes up that we could use you for. So yeah, I've always got my eyes open for interesting people.
Sienna here says Giselle was scouted when eating in McDonald's. I don't believe she's ever eaten McDonald's. She might have been in there, but I think she was probably using the loo. Some agencies have walk-ins. What does that really mean?
Okay, so a walk-in is when you can just turn up at the agency and say, hi, I'd like to be a model. Would you like to sign me? Very useful because they get to see you in person, and the people who need to see you get to see you. A lot of agencies only will do like 1 hour a week of that. A lot of agencies at the moment won't be doing them at all, and probably for the foreseeable future, they won't be doing them at all. So yes, a walk-in can work, but I also think it's probably better, or at least to do as well, is to email them and send them some photos. You could do both. You can email, send some photos, and then do a walk-in. You could go in and see them, and if you get a negative response, you could always send some photos as well, because it's, like I said, some people look different in person than in a photo, and vice versa. Walk-ins, I mean, Malika Firth, who's like a massive model at Premier, I believe she just walked in. So it absolutely, it can happen like that. But I'm a big proponent of using your initiative, taking some nice photos and sending them to all appropriate agencies, and follow it up as well. Like, agencies get lots and lots and lots of emails. So I think if they think you're amazing, they will get back to you pretty quickly, but it's very easy to fall between the cracks as well. Someone says, oh, I like you, passes it around to the other agency, no one gets back to them, they get busy, forget to email you. It can definitely happen. So do be persistent, but also be realistic about if you're getting certain feedback, listen to the feedback and maybe have a change of plan.
Brilliant. We'll come on to like the things that maybe like a list of 5 do's to get into the modeling, but what are some of the things to watch out for? Because that photo thing you're talking about used to be so big in London. They'd approach you on the street and say, oh, it was every town centre actually. They had one in every mall, didn't they, in the town? And they go, oh, this is a free shoot. You just pay for the pictures you want. And then they'd draw you in. It's like 100 quid a picture, whatever. It's not a scam, you know, but
yeah, I mean,
I think it was a loose, you know, and
very loose. And like I said, the photos that they give you will never, ever, ever be used by a model agency because they're not the appropriate kind of photo. So yeah, that is a big thing. And I'd also say you never pay anything up front.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna take that back a little bit. if you're going to be a fashion model who would do, like I said, high-end fashion stuff or high-end commercial stuff, your agency will invest some money into you in order to get you started. So they will get test shoots, they will send you to things, they will spend a bit of money upfront to invest in you. It will go onto your account so that when you start making money, they will get that back before you receive any money. But you would never have to pay anything upfront. If you're a more of a lifestyle agency or a character agency, it might be necessary to have some photos of your own, but you don't feel the need to get professional ones. I think, at least to start with, you can definitely just get your mates to take some photos of you. Camera phones these days are as good as any phone. So a lot of the photos that Bayo uses at our agency, people have done them themselves, or we have an open day when people come in to join, where we get a photographer in and we just take photos, and I don't think they're charged, or if they are charged, I think it's £50, which you don't pay up front, will come off if you make any money, and if you don't, then you don't have to pay anything. So there might be some small outlier like that, but in general, you don't pay for anything up front. Also, I think just to research agencies who is reputable, look on their website, see what models they have, follow them on social media and see what jobs their models are doing. Also, you've got to remember, as a model, you are your own boss. Like, they're not your employers. Technically, you employ them because they make a commission when they find you work. So be on top of your finances. Don't be afraid to ask. Make friends with the person in accounts. Whatever model I ever scale, I introduce them to the person in account. That is your best friend. Say hello to them whenever you go in. Send them a Christmas card. When you've got a big job or you make some money, thank them, because they're the people who will control your money. They're the people who will chase your money more aggressively if they like you. They're the people who will pay you quicker if they like you. So it's really important that you remember that it's your money, that there's no harm in asking. Don't ask the day after the job. Don't ask 2 weeks after the job, because the money will not be there. But there's no harm in politely asking what your money is going to be, when you're going to receive it, etc. So do remember that you are your own boss. You have to do your own tax returns, all these kind of things. That it's not an employment situation. You are your own boss. So I think that's really important to remember when you're doing anything in our industry. Actually, not just modeling, is it? It's the same for actors. It's the same for dancers. Yeah. Same for everybody.
Definitely. What are some of the other? Are there some great advice on the non-paying upfront? And that's the same with like casting directors, isn't it? We've heard some horror stories from generally from like mums who have children, and and they put them in front of casting directors and thought that they were getting, and they were just being scammed, and it's just, if you're ever being charged by a casting director, run the other way. That's not what our job is,
Ever. I mean, we might do a workshop or something, which is like weird, or something for like a casting workshop. That's actually something we spoke before about, people going to castings. There's sometimes there is some skills that you can learn, just castings, not actually acting skills. Sorry, the girl who asked us about how to get more advertising castings. The skill of going to an advertising casting is very, very, very different to going up for a film role or a theatre role. So the skills that you have to have are different skills. So if you've not done a casting workshop, it might be worthwhile doing one, because very subtle little things can make all the difference in a commercial casting.
Definitely. Like, I think it's good to be somebody good improviser for commercial castings. Like you're saying, you don't often get given scripts, but you have to build like an entire world in your mind in a studio that's like 20 feet by 20 feet, and you've got to see everything that the director's explaining to you and really be able to like create that and make it come alive. And it's tricky, but it's you can learn and master it, can't you? So what are the
sorry, just about being able to walk into a room and creating rapport with someone, because with a commercial casting you might have 5 minutes. So, and often I sit in castings and the people who get booked are the people that the client likes. And you could be as good as you like. If you've not come across well in front of the client, for a commercial casting, Shakespeare's different because there's a skill level that you have to have. For a commercial casting, it could often be one of many people. So to be likable is one of the most important skills at a commercial casting.
And are there any other, apart from the financial thing, are there any other little flags, little red flags for model? You know, if you're being scouted, you know, you're sitting there in the cafe, socially distancing, and someone comes up and says, "Hi, this is my card," and you go on, and it's the website they have seems okay. Are there things that they might say, or are there any things to watch out for being scouted in the street?
The same as I said about scouting, about agencies. A scout or a model agency should never ask you for any money, because that's not how we make money. I don't make money from the model. I have a relationship with the agency, not with the model. So I've never taken, from a scout's perspective, obviously people are with our agency, we take the commission from. But as a scout, I never take money from a model. I think you just, because we work a lot with young people. I had people come to see me last week. I had a 16-year-old, she came with her mum. I had a 17-year-old who came by herself. And after she'd been to see me, I spoke to her and I said, I want to speak to your dad. Before this goes any further, I want to speak to one of your parents, because I'm not comfortable dealing directly with a 17-year-old if I haven't got parents okay from that. And any legitimate agency would say the same thing. And younger than that, I'm not even going to talk to the individual model. I'm going to talk to mum. I think now dad said it's okay. She's 17. I'm happy to speak to her directly. So I think that's very important. I think just be careful. I mean, just use common sense. If you are younger, do get your parents involved, because they're going to ask legitimate questions. And also, as a scout, I find people and then I place them with legitimate agencies. So if I'm speaking to you, I'm going to be talking about the relationships I have with bigger agencies. So if you're unsure of the scout, call the agency and ask if they've heard of them. Because any London agency who you call and say, do you know Jody from the Eye, they're going to say yes, because I've been working with them for 15 plus years. So any legitimate scout would have those relationships with any agency that they want to scout you with, place you with.
Brilliant, really good advice. Because I think that's, and it's the same with acting as well. I think it's people can be vulnerable in the excitement of what might be happening. You know, they can get overexcited, like, wow, I've been scouted, and miss some of the, you know, things that may not be so great.
Being scouted is literally just the first thing. There's 10, 20 steps before you're ever going to be a successful model. So yes, it's nice to be scouted, but then you've got to start putting the work in and the professionalism and all the rest of it. So scouting is exciting, but there's a lot of work to be done from the scouts, from the agencies and the models' behalf before anything happens. Lots of people get scouted. Not all, about 10% of them are successful. So being scouted is just one step. It's not the end result.
And so talk us through, like, so you found someone, you've scouted them, you're going to pass them on to the agency. How far along will you go when you're scouting? I know you've got the agency side, but how far do you go and stay with that model? Like, is there like, I stick with them until?
It depends on the model, depends of their experience, depends on their age, etc., etc. So, for example, some models we met last week, I've spoken to agencies, I've sent photos, I've got an appointment on Thursday with one model. She's coming with her dad. I'm going to go with her. If they take her on, she will have met all the bookers at that agency. And then I stay involved, but the agency would be the people calling them day to day. There's also models that I've scouted 7 years ago. Like my biggest model is Shay Mayakaki, who's a Victoria's Secret model, Dolce and Gabbana model, Chanel model. She works every day. I speak to her all the time. I was speaking to her yesterday. I had a Zoom call with her and her New York agent last week. So we speak every day. Emily Vivian, who's another model of mine who does Dolce and Gabbana, she did Balmain in Paris last weekend. I had a nice long conversation with her today because there was money that I needed to get from Milan for her. And so it's an ongoing relationship. And I think we pride ourselves on having a relationship with our models, because if we don't have a relationship and there's not something that I'm adding to the dynamic, then I'm not serving a purpose. So hopefully we add to their modelling career with an extra level of support. Often a model's first problem might be with their agency, and it's difficult to talk to an agency about any issues. That's my job. I'm happy to talk to anyone about anything. I'm happy to pull people up on stuff. I'm happy to speak to accounts and find out where your money is. I'm happy to step in and change your travel arrangements because they're not working for you. So I think that's primarily where I come in, is an extra level of support. But that depends on the model. Some models need more support. Some models don't need any at all. They're happily getting on with stuff. But a mother agency should be involved. That's our job.
It's really interesting. It's a massive industry, isn't it? Like, I don't just mean in terms of like massive in terms of the clients, the products, the magazines, the clothing shops, etc. Just massive in its process of getting. I suppose it's a little bit like finding and nurturing a new football star and taking them through that whole process as well, finding them the right beginning club that's going to move them on to the right club, and so on and so forth. Is that a thing within in the modelling industry? Are there stepping stone agencies, or do you try and land them with an agency that will look after them forever?
I mean, that wouldn't be the goal, to have a stepping stone agency. And also, I think obviously when you launch a model at a young age, you don't kind of progress necessarily. They really try to start, and we're talking about fashion models here. You like to start with a bang. Look at this new face. Yeah, she walked this year. Yeah. So I mean, what you want to try and do is steadily increase your success over the years, and then you hit a level where agents know who you are. Not agents, sorry, clients know who you are and will come directly for you. And then you can move about agencies. But I try to, unless there's a big issue with an agency, I try to keep people to stay at the right age. I try to place people with the right agency for them at the beginning and hope they'll stay there. Because if you start moving about all the time, there's no continuity. It gets you a little bit of a bad reputation. And I think if you're always having to move agents, there might be something that you're doing wrong and not necessarily the agents. Because a lot of the agents in London, especially, I know who the good ones are, and they have the same skills and they have the same clients. So I always ask people to look at themselves and what they could be doing better before we blame it directly on an agent. Not to say that agents aren't at fault as well. Yeah, they definitely are.
Yes, look at yourself first. So with obviously in the 90s, the sort of, I don't know, it feels like that's when the supermodel came about. You know, that just, you know, these incredible women that kind of just took over the world. What's the industry now? Is that still a thing? Are there still like those? I mean, there are the models that you still learn about obviously today, but like looking out there, it's a different kind of supermodel now, isn't it? Like, you know, I can't remember his name, but there's this guy and he's just littered in tattoos and piercings and everything, and he's everywhere. I can't remember who I saw him, maybe it was Gucci, or I can't remember the brands that he was with, but he's just everywhere and he's fantastic. Like, is that this is what the aesthetic of what a model is different now. There's not, I don't think there's that many supermodels around anymore. There's a lot of celebrities, big on Instagram, got famous parents or siblings. Is that a supermodel? I don't think so. But there's certainly girls within the industry who the industry knows. Adut Kesh, who is just phenomenal. She is what you definitely call a supermodel these days, but the general public don't necessarily know her. And that's the difference between the people who are successful in the fashion industry and the public knowing them. Back in the day, Linda Evangelista, Cindy Crawford, Chrissy Turlington were household names to everybody who had nothing to do with fashion. Linda would change the colour of her hair and it would be front page news. And they were the celebrities. Every magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And nowadays, celebrities are people on Instagram, people who've been on Love Island, people whose sisters did a sex tape. So it's not the same thing. I mean, it's just different. It's just different. So yes, there are in the industry, there's definitely big names that fashion people know and certain people in the public know. But I think what the public now think of as a supermodel, I think that word is used too loosely these days.
Is that so? What is the kind of life expectancy of a model these days? You know, if they want to maintain, it's not like a choice of to move across. Like what sort of, you know, how long is a modeling career? Is that a ridiculous question?
No, not at all. But what will happen with your career is it will change. So what still happens with a fashion model is you try to launch them during Fashion Week. So you will get them to do New York, Milan, Paris, hopefully get some big shows. So clients meet them, fashion editors want to put them in editorials, create a name that way. So some girls end up doing that. That's their job. That is the kind of model they become. Then from off of that, you might get really successful and then get brands wanting to work with you and money clients. And then you don't have to do shows anymore, or you just do them special shows with clients that you know, but you don't have to do that whole circuit ever again, or just pop up and do it when you want to do it. Some models do that, doesn't really work. They do a little U-turn, put on a little bit of weight, become a more commercial model. So, and as you get older, the same. Like, it's not that many models who are 26, 27, 28 who are still doing all the shows, because by then you've either launched yourself in that sphere or you've moved on a little bit. So, and that's also when you might move agency. You might start off with a very high-end fashion agency, and then you might go, I've done that, I've got a bit of a reputation, I've got some nice photos, I'm going to move to an agency that's a little bit more commercial, that it's more about making what we call money jobs. And then a lot of models, as they get older, they move to a commercial agency. MOT has been the agency that a lot of models that were with Storm and Elite when they were young moved to historically. But I think agencies nowadays have also realised that there's money to be made with older models. So it's a little bit different than it was even 5 years ago. Agencies are changing, as you can see, with agencies that now have a curved division, now have what's called like they have a division now for classic division, which they didn't used to have. So what will happen with modeling is it changes. Right. There's probably going to be some peak years where you can make the most money, but then as you get older, you do different things. And often with what models do is they've got other skills. They teach yoga, they do art, they have got a degree in something else, but they still dip in and out of modeling as well. And I think when you're young and you've got the freedom to travel and make money and meet all these cool people, you can also use those years to hone skills, find out something possibly related to the industry that you're interested in, and then do that, and then dip in and out of modeling as you get older. A lot of people do that.
In acting careers, when they get very successful, certainly in like TV and film, it's a big American thing. You have your agent, but then a manager as well. Is that something in the modeling world?
Yes and no. You can do that, but it's going to be less for modeling work. It will be more for kind of branding, or like people, influencers, stuff like that. So your model agent is always going to be your model agent. They're the ones who are going to book you on your modeling jobs. If you want to branch off and do other stuff, or related to modeling but not exactly modeling, then yes, you could have a manager, but it's only, I'd say, the very, very big girls that do that. Because otherwise, if you have a manager who's booking you on jobs and also an agent who's booking you on jobs, that just gets really confusing, and you'll step on each other's toes and everyone will end up being annoyed with each other. So I think that's just for like the people who are almost household names, who will be doing presenting or acting or all those kind of things as well.
On Spotlight, sometimes when we have submissions for whatever we're casting, you'll see someone has their acting agent and maybe a voiceover agent, but sometimes if they're dancers, because we work a lot with dancers, they'll have their acting agent, which is great, but then they might have two model agencies, and that always confuses me. Is that a thing as well? Because do you, in the modeling area, do you
Yeah, no, absolutely. A lot of acting agents won't let you do that.
Yeah.
And the same with a lot of model agencies. If you're with one of the big fashion agencies, they're not going to let you have other agencies. But sometimes if you have an acting agent who's predominantly putting you up for TV, film, then you could have a model agency that puts you up for print work and some commercials.
Right.
I have someone I scouted, Rob Knighton, who's with Next. He was also with United, and he was also with us. And between us, we made it work, because Next are mainly putting him up for fashion stuff. United were mainly putting him up for acting roles, and we put him up for commercials. And it actually ended up that Sarah, his booker at Next, booked him on King Arthur film. We booked him on H&M TV commercial with David Beckham. So it was all a mix. And I think it's the way I see it is, as an agent, I want to get the most work as possible I can for my client. And we need, as agents, we need to make it work. But I totally understand that if you're the agent that's booked a girl on the front cover of Vogue, you don't want someone else using that to get them other work or stepping on your toes. So it's about having a relationship. But yeah, I mean, at a certain level, I think you can definitely make that work.
Awesome. Someone, Suffer again, has asked, how young is young in the modelling world? Well, I mean, there's child models, aren't there, really? So
yeah, actually, that's something. Let me just talk about that a little bit, because I've sort of spoken a lot about different types of agencies and about finding the right agency for you. Modelling is not just catwalks in the front of Vogue. Modelling is swimwear. Modelling is hair. Modelling is, like I said, a lady with a baby. And there's all different agencies that all represent different things. So you've got your high-end fashion agencies. You've got your more commercial agencies that might do swimwear and hair jobs and stuff like that. You've got lifestyle agencies, like someone like MOT, BMA, Sandra Reynolds, who have beautiful people, but they're not fashion models. You're going to see them in catalogs. You're going to see them on billboards. You're going to see them doing, I don't know, tea adverts or a whiskey advert. You've also got character agencies. I'd probably say my agency is more of a character agency, but so is, I don't know, Ugly is the quintessential character agency. Crumb is a new character agency. Looks is a character agency, which is nice looking but ordinary people who can do real life things. So a lot of people you see on billboards are going to be from character agencies. You've also got specialist agencies. You've got ones that specialise in older people. There's one called Grey. There's one called Mrs. Robinson. And most of their models, all of their models, are older. You've also got sports agency, W Athletic or SOS, which have people who have specific sporting skills. You have agencies that are for pregnant ladies. You've got kids agencies. You've got all different agencies with different people in them. So if you have any specific skills, that might be the route to take. There's a lot of agencies that are dance agencies, but their people also do modeling. So if you think about it, think about what skills you have that you can use in modeling. And increasingly, clients don't just want to book someone because they look good. They want them to have something extra, whether it's skateboarding or playing an instrument, or maybe they're a social, they're an activist. These things are really, really important at the moment, and they are just as likely to get you booked on a job as what you look like.
I think that as we said right at the beginning of this session, that the world has changed so much. We don't just have 4 channels and only 2 of them have adverts on anymore. It's everywhere, every bit of content, and that's changed in the model industry. It's not just about having someone, like I said, you know, with the rubber tire and the baby and, you know, the 10-pack. It's because there's so much content online and everywhere, isn't there? So it's definitely changed, and I think there's so much more opportunity. That is it. That's our hour. We could have gone on and on.
Yeah, I can talk. I don't mind talking.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Oh, Jody, that was absolutely fantastic. I think it's a really interesting section to sort of look into, because I think that it's got that kind of that pedestal thing about becoming a model, but it's not like I don't think it's like that anymore, is it? It's just not like that.
No, absolutely not. And I just want to reiterate that models, there's not only one type of model. And when you think about that and you walk down the street and you look in shop windows and you look at billboards, see all the different types of people in those adverts. They're all models, all of them, different types of model. And sometimes the people who are not the big fashion people are actually making more money. So don't think that there's only one way of being a model. I think that's really important. And I think it really helps people to be realistic about what kind of model you can be and apply to appropriate agencies, because obviously you've got a much better success rate at applying to agencies that have other people that are similar to you.
Definitely. Oh, Jody, that was amazing. Thank you so much for joining us again today. Really appreciate it. Oh, wonderful. I'm going to say thank you for everyone watching. I'm going to take you out of the live stream now.
Cool. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, I hope that he's noticing these cheekbones here today, and I hope that I am now scouted. That was fantastic. Thank you so much to the wonderful Jody. We love having him here. I'm sure we'll get him back again soon. Thank you to everyone for watching. Go and hydrate, because at 5 o'clock we have a little bit of fitness for you. We're doing, is it Pio or Pio with the wonderful Natalie Hope. So go and hydrate, get here and get some exercise on at 5 o'clock. Thank you so much to Jody once more, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.